Hey guys, so my steroid blast cycle came to an end about 2 weeks ago, just over 2 weeks ago, and so now I can accurately describe what it feels like, the difference between being on a blast and a cruise cycle. Blast being, pushing the limits as far as the amount of androgens you're taking, exogenous androgens that you're injecting, as well oral anabolics as well, and then coming down to a more moderate dose. Well, that could be a TRT dose. For me, it's TRT dose plus a little bit of Nandrolone. Okay, so I notice a big difference, and in some regards it feels better. In other regards, blasting feels better. So I'm gonna weigh the two and say which one feels better. What feels better, being like blasting on gear, or coming down, cooling off, and just cruising on gear? Okay, so this is like pretty obvious that when you're blasting gear, it has an effect on your physical well-being, your emotional well-being, and your like psychological. Okay, although if you don't push it too hard, it can be managed, and some people, it depends on the compounds you're taking too, but Nandrolone's known to affect psychology, create anxiety, and it depends on varies person to person. Okay, so in that sense, I do feel less anxiety, especially when I was really pushing the Nandrolone for a few weeks there, but I brought it down and it subsided. Regardless, there's a bit of an edge there, I'll say. Okay, bit of an edge when you're blasting. That being said, that edge actually can feel pretty darn good too, like when you apply it. So for example, when you're at the gym and I say I'm blasting hammer curls or overhead press or something, it gives you that little extra edge, and that feels good when you're, especially what also feels good is when you're performing better, you're blasting through new PRs, and you know what I mean, you got a basic pump at the gym. So in that sense, it does feel good as well when you're blasting. Okay, when you are taking large amount of steroids, I almost feel like it, in a sense, it's always just there in the background. You feel something different. It's like, you can describe it as being weighed down, but there's like a weight on your shoulders, a weight, like you feel it inside you. There's a feeling about it. That's like there, and part of that feeling might have to do with the fact that there's elevated blood pressure in the body. Okay, so when your heart rate's at like 150 over 90, you'll feel different than when it's 120 over 80. Okay, and your gears are starting to rev a little higher, and when that's 24/7, you'll start to always be there. It's that feeling of like, and that might manifest itself in like a little bit of shortness of breath, a little bit of like feeling in your chest area there, and that's not healthy, and it's not a good feeling. So heightened blood pressure from taking large doses, it doesn't feel great. Although that can be managed with other medications like telmisartan to bring that down. I didn't do that though. I just tried to take an amount that wasn't going to push it too high. So when I come off it, my blood pressure is down in the 120 to 130 range over 80. So it's a lot better, and I'm feeling a lot better. Next, I should mention just physicality when you're cruising. Now, I'm not at that point yet because I literally just came off it, but physicality wise, you'll start to lose a bit of gains. Ideally, you want to ideal amount of gains you want to retain is somewhere around 80%. Okay, ideally, it might be less than that in actuality when you come off for like 3 to 6 months, like all the way down to like a TRT, compared to like a blast where you're doing almost a gram of gear before. Okay, but that's fine. The whole point of that is to cool off, but you will, again, ideally retain like a large amount of gains. And with some compounds like, I believe, Anavar and Primobolan, and even Nandrolone, I believe you will retain those gains. Not I believe you will. If you train properly, you continue training, you eat well, everything. Okay, so that's the important thing. But you're not going to be hitting the PRs the same as you were when you're in the gym. So in that sense, it doesn't feel as good to hit those PRs. Like a lot of people blast all year round because they're just like they just want to keep making gains. And but you know what? You need to breathe. It's like the way I see it. You know, when you take a deep breath in, you know, you can't just keep breathing in. You got to breathe out at some point. You know, and I think over time, you know, that's why blasting and cruising is important, because it's like breathing. Okay. The other alternative is you just take a mild dose of steroids year round, and you never change that. But then you're not going to push it to the extent where you're going to be making good gains, because you're not really pushing the extent of your androgen load that you have in your body. So there's that. I think, though, overall, I'm going to say it feels better when you come off it. Okay? But nonetheless, you're still doing something. You're still doing like a TRT or a TRT plus even. Still might be doing more than just a TRT. So you still have a reasonable amount of androgens in your body. You still feel, it's not like you feel like shit. It's not like you're just coming off completely. Right? So, in that sense, you know, you're still going to feel fine. But there's not going to be the negative side effects potentially that you have when you are blasting. So in that sense, it's a good thing. But again, I have to say, this is Captain Obvious here, that when you are blasting and you feel like a fucking animal, that feels fucking amazing too. That's part of the addiction I think a lot of guys get drawn into, because it does feel good, and the amount of hormones you have in your body that are involved with like pleasure go up, like you know, even things like sexuality and things like, as long as you don't your estrogen doesn't go skyrocket or you don't crush it, you know, or there's other factors involved there with prolactin levels. Granted, all your levels are in check, you know, you're gonna feel fucking amazing. You feel like you're superhuman, because you are when you're on it, when you're blasting here. But you know, sometimes, like Icarus flies too close to the sun, his wings fall off, right? The old Greek mythology, Icarus, he had granted wings, and he flew so high, you know, he burned his wings, right? So that's a good metaphor for, you know, you're going to push a lot hard, you're going to burn your kidneys and liver, or burn your hair out of your head and other things, okay? And by pushing too hard, I think you're eventually going to build up like kind of like a tolerance to it. So in the end, it won't even work as well. Sometimes coming off, you might, and this is just my speculation, is that it'll work better in the end. Like when you do come back on, okay? And potentially it's a good idea to change compounds too. Like, don't be just doing the same thing all the time. Although I'm no pharmacologist or like biochemist specializing in this thing. That's just my inclination. Although I think that's what pro bodybuilders do. They structure themselves, their year, in a sense, like based around their competition, as far as like, you know, there's a maintenance phase, there's a pre-comp stage, there's like more bulking stage side of things, and obviously androgens change, their androgen intake changes throughout the year. They might have a portion of the year where they just totally come off everything too. So give their body a break, right? And then they can come back and, you know, very easily get their gains back. So, but I'm no professional bodybuilder. I'm just speaking on what I've heard on that regard. Although the same theory can be applicable to somebody who's, like in my case, who's a gym bro, right? Who wants to get stronger and wants to put on size. So in that sense, maybe structuring a year where you know, 3 months of the year you're blasting, there might be a 3 months or 6 months, like you take 3 months on, 3 months off, or just 3 months on and then you come off like down to TRT for a few months, and you might push it up a little bit. I don't know. Structure it. There might be different ways on how to structure it with different compounds. You know, if you're in a cutting phase, you might take more masteron propionate and maybe even Trenbolone. I don't know. Or Anavar or Winstrol. And in more of a bulking phase, maybe in the winter time where it doesn't really matter that you're blown up a little bit, you might take more nandrolone and EQ or testosterone to push your test levels a little higher. I don't know. I'm sure there's multiple ways, things you can do here, multiple strategies. So if you have any of those strategies, enlighten me. Leave in the comments section below what's worked well for you. On that regard, what do you think? Do you feel better when you're cruising or when you're blasting? Love to hear your guys' perspective on that. Personally, right now I feel, even though I have a bit of a cold right now, I feel really, really good. I've come down, brought all my androgens down. Okay, so thank you for watching, guys. Please like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Leave your comments in the comments section. I always love hearing your guys' perspective on things, okay? Have a great night, everybody. Peace.